I have read books about these events, so yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not in my exactly. Yeah, the Polish. Yeah, so I have a friend that her stepmother is Polish, so she sent me some recommendation. So yeah, I'm assuming there's going to be some place.
friends and distinguished guests here, dear President Konarzewski, dear President Zagorodny, distinguished colleagues, friends, guests, of course, also a very warm welcome to those joining us via live stream. We have a huge audience also online. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this ALLEA General Assembly satellite event on supporting the Ukrainian research ecosystem through international exchange and collaboration. So this event marks the opening of the 4-day program of the 2026 ALLEA General Assembly here in Warsaw. And we are very pleased that support for Ukrainian science is featured prominently at the outset, reflecting the strong commitment of the European academies. I have seen a number of presidents from various academies here, to academic solidarity, scientific cooperation, and the defense of academic freedom in Europe. I would like to sincerely thank our close partners and co-organizers, first of all, the Polish Academy of Sciences and the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. And it is particularly meaningful that both presidents, that you are both here, and it underlines the importance of scientific cooperation at a time when these values are being tested profoundly. We are also very grateful to Polish Academy of Sciences for hosting us here in Warsaw, a city that has become an important place of exchange, support, and cooperation for many Ukrainian scholars and institutions over the past years. Meeting here in Staszic Palace, although it's not the room of Staszic, it's the room of Maria Skłodowska-Curie. It's a historic home of Polish science and intellectual life, and this carries a strong symbolic meaning, reminding us of the enduring role of academies as spaces of dialogue, solidarity, and shared responsibility across generations and borders. And as I mentioned before, I am pleased to see such strong participation today. We have academic delegates from across Europe, grantees of the European Fund for Displaced Scientists, representatives of Ukrainian research institutions. I have seen directors of the institutes of the Polish Academy of Sciences and many committed partners. This event forms part of ALLEA's continued efforts to support Ukrainian science since the start of Russia's full-scale aggression against Ukraine in 2022. It's hard to believe, it's already 4 years. From the very beginning, ALLEA and its member academies recognized that support for our Ukrainian colleagues was and is not only an urgent humanitarian necessity, but also a matter of protecting the future of European science itself. Our important expression of this commitment was the establishment of the EFDS. Some of you know what is it, and Matthias later on, Matthias Johansson, who is with us here, will later elaborate on the scheme. But importantly, EFDS was designed not simply as an emergency relocation mechanism, but as a contribution to sustaining and reconnecting the Ukrainian research ecosystem. From the outset, the program aimed to enhance brain circulation, maintaining scientific links, fostering institutional cooperation, and enabling researchers to continue contributing to Ukrainian science while engaging internationally. We are also very grateful to the Breakthrough Prize Foundation for making this possible through its generous support, not only for the EFDS program itself, but also for many of the activities like this one that we have today. And I have to say that earlier this year, in April, I had a series of engaging conversations with the leadership of the Breakthrough Prize Foundation, and believe me, they are wholeheartedly with us today. It is also a privilege for ALLEA to represent the European academies within the International Coalition for Science, Research and Innovation in Ukraine. We are very interested to learn more about the future plans and the role that the academies can continue to play within this important initiative. I'm sure that Friedrich Sondergaard, who is with us here, hello, from the European Commission, will further enlighten us on these questions today, especially shortly ahead of the coalition upcoming high-level meeting in Gdańsk next month, alongside the Ukraine Recovery Conference. We will be present there as well as ALLEA. And let me just elaborate a bit on today's program, which brings together a remarkable group of contributors. We will first hear from President Konarzewski as our host, and then from Professor Zagorodny, who will share perspectives on the current situation of Ukrainian science and research. Later, we will have two sessions with highly knowledgeable and experienced moderators, we'll introduce them later on, and panelists addressing both the urgent needs of the Ukrainian research ecosystem and the role that Ukrainian researchers abroad can play in supporting science in Ukraine. I am particularly pleased that so many FDS grantees are with us today. We look forward to learning from you, your experiences, expectations and ambitions for the future of Ukrainian science. And this future perspective is especially important today because this event also marks the launch of the EFDS alumni network. We hope this network will provide a sustainable framework for continued collaboration, exchange and support activities connected to Ukraine and Ukrainian scholarship. You can have a look on your chairs. You can find this nice piece of paper, which is, in fact, there are seeds on this sheet. I hope these are the seeds for our future collaboration. You can grow various plants just by watering this sheet of paper. So that's something for our future collaboration. Dear colleagues, science depends on openness, cooperation, trust, and human connections across borders. These principles become even more important in times of war and uncertainty. I hope today's discussions will help us better understand how we, as academies and scientific organizations, can continue contributing meaningfully to the resilience and future reconstruction of Ukrainian science. Thank you very much for being here today. I wish all of us inspiring and productive discussion. And Professor Konarzewski, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Paweł. You are in Polish hands, as you see. I have this privilege and pleasure to welcome you to Warsaw, to Palace of Staszic, which is not our headquarters. We have a headquarters in this huge, ugly palace in the very center of the town. But this is historically the place where Polish Academy has been since at least 1945 established. So this is the heart of Polish science, and welcome from the bottom of this heart. Ladies and gentlemen, the cause and the reason of our meeting is really of the highest level. I'm very happy that for the, well, I can't count how many times we met. I'm turning to President Zagorodny here in Poland to support Ukrainian cause. And our 4 years experience since 2022 is really something that I hope we can share with you. First and foremost, just imagine Warsaw in 2022 in February when the war broke out. and the town was just flooded with people fleeing Ukraine, including displaced Ukrainian scientists. We made a home for them here in Poland. Academy, then led by Professor Duszyński, immediately started a really wonderful program that I had the privilege to continue. We managed to join a number of people, a number of academies, chiefly National Academies of Science of the United States, and we brought together over $8 million to support Ukrainian scientists who found their home at the Institutes of Polish Academy of Science. Welcome. But they also had their team working back-to-back at home in Ukraine. I think this program, long-term program, I'm proud to say it, can serve as a kind of a role model how to support Ukrainian science. We are close to the finish of this program, which is quite worrisome because Ukraine still needs some help, as you know. We are fighting the fatigue of war also here in Poland because the attention to the Ukrainian problems are fading away. Let me be blunt, and I believe that we will discuss this today. This is our main challenge, how to revive the interest in Ukrainian science and the Ukrainian cause, how to secure the funding for the next years to come, hopefully not for maintaining Ukrainian scientists abroad, but rather to help them to come back home and rebuild Ukrainian science enterprise in Kiev and in other places. I believe that this is the main challenge for the future, and again, I'm confident that you will discuss this here. We have our own experiences, as I said, gathered through these 4 years of collaboration with Ukrainian colleagues. I'll be happy to share with you this experience. There are many people of us, I'm staring at Mateusz Białas and others who worked and has been working back-to-back with Ukrainian colleagues over the years. We know what should be done to make Ukrainian science stronger. We have a lot to work together, but we also have a lot to learn from Ukrainians. Just think of their ingenuity over the years, how bravely and wonderfully they fought back the Russian aggression. Behind all these successes in front, there are scientists. There are people that brought their knowledge and were capable of bringing this knowledge to the battlefield. This is one of the experiences that I think, will be happy to share with Ukrainians and vice versa. So again, welcome to Warsaw. I'm absolutely confident that you will have a wonderful stay. We secured a wonderful weather. I'm not saying that you please skip part of the program to see the town, but nevertheless, if you have a chance to have a short walk, this direction there is the old town, very, very beautiful place. So outside the program, you are more than welcome to come and visit Warsaw, and I wish you all fruitful discussion for the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these nice words and this very hard experience for all of us that you have just mentioned. Let me just say this one thing that I forgot during my initial speech. I mentioned Breakthrough Prize Foundation. I just want to mention that they have started nominations for their real prize that they give for top scientists in the world in various areas. You might know that it's $3 million for each of the scientists. So please think about. They also seek nominations from Europe, and we are a group of people that can think about who deserves this kind of prize. And let us go further with the program. So Matthias Johansson, our former director of ALLEA, and now a person very much focusing on this collaboration with the Ukrainian scholars. Matthias, please describe the entire program. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Pavel, for the introduction, and also from my side, welcome everyone to this side event. It's really great to see that the room is almost full. And I will limit my short presentation really just to a short look back at the program, which has ended, and then focus a little bit more on the present and the future of what we could maybe achieve with the knowledge and experiences that have been gained over the past years. So you have heard from Pavel that we had this partnership starting immediately after the Russian aggression with the Breakthrough Prize Foundation. There was an endowment of $1.5 million US. That's, of course, in comparison, a small program, but you have to consider that it took us, I think, only 2 or 3 months to come up with a call for applications, and I think that meant that many other successor programs then basically benefited a bit from the thinking that we put into this program in the beginning, especially, as Pavel mentioned, to make sure that this program is not unintentionally enhancing brain drain streams. Now, we will see later on, when we look at some funding survey results, that there are some interesting developments as to this question. So very briefly, the program had 2 funding lines. One that went to academic institutions across the Council of Europe, which hosted displaced Ukraine scholars. So it was basically a matching/seed funding, because it was up to 12 months, 25,000 euros, so small sum, but immediate effect. The other funding line went directly to Ukrainian academic institutions. Many of these were institutes of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. These were a bit higher grants, and they were mostly used to continue operations, meaning that they stepped in for paying salaries that were otherwise not be paid at that point in time. Here you can see the distribution of funding across Europe. So you can see that, is that working here? Yes. You can see that 40 scholars were distributed over 12 countries. So you have here's a peak. So I guess that Warsaw is actually this city which was most supported in terms of total numbers, but of course also reflecting what the president has said before, because it also hosted most Ukrainian scholars at that time. So we did a little bit of support to these schemes. For the second funding line, 8 institutions were selected, which indirectly then supported up to almost 100 scholars to continue their search. What was noticeable was that it was so heavily oversubscribed that we were trying to basically enhance the program. We could have funded many, many more scholars and many more institutions because we had good applications, but there was just a limit to the total funding. In total, you can see a few numbers. Of course, there were some immediate effects, and I was really touched and surprised that 2 people here in the room who actually represent the Paladin Institute of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine for biochemistry, so one of the 8 that you see down below, they actually produced a brochure which sets out what effects this funding had for them and what they could actually manage. So if you see those brochures on the tables in the break, go through them. Thank you very much for producing these and not telling us before. Okay. So that's, of course, very nice. Now, we're moving to the immediate past and the present. So as said, I think the one main effect of this EFDS program was that the lessons we learned immediately were shared very widely. We had a lot of requests, both from academies who then set up their own support programs, but also from other organizations who were inspired by the way we have designed the program in the very beginning. I would maybe mention 3 additional activities that are not closely connected but are part of the support activities that we have enrolled in the past years. One is a partnership with the International Science Council, a series of 2 conferences organized in the years 23 and 24 in support of Ukrainian science, and something which is very well presented here in this building. I don't know if the room is on the same floor, but you can see here in 2022, chaired by you, Jazzy. Same floor?
Same floor, not the same room.
Okay, so very close to this room, the presidents of ALLEA and you can see National Academy from Ukraine, of course Poland, also the US, Denmark and others gathered in this building in 22 and came up with a 10 points action plan of which you will hear later today a little bit more. And then I would also like to stress what Pavel mentioned in the beginning, that we are also very keen to contribute further to the International Coalition for Science, Research and Innovation in Ukraine, which I think is a really, really good initiative. And I really hope that we can find a way of also that the alumni of our network can maybe somehow contribute or also benefit. Let's see how we can work together on that basis. This was launched last summer as part of the Ukraine Recovery Conference hosted in Rome. And it's planned that every year connected to these recovery conferences, there's now a focus on science. You correct me if I'm wrong, Frederick. Okay, and so I think we will also hear about this in a minute. And not to forget, of course, ALLEA's member, the National Academy of Science of Ukraine, is in the focus of the solidarity and support of ALLEA, and this remains, of course, also the focus for the coming years. A few slides. What we did in the run-up to this meeting is we asked the people who received the grant, who were displaced from Ukraine, a few questions about what they actually did with it. And, you know, so this is not the entire questionnaire. I don't want to bore you. There are many people who can later on give more qualitative experiences. But here's some quantitative data. So you can see we have quite many different disciplines. We have, and this is, we have out of those who responded, you can see that 50% said that they are currently professionally split between Ukraine and another country, which also might be an interesting feature of thinking about brain circulation opportunities. We asked about whether the FDS support enabled them to continue the research. You can see that this was true for almost all of them very much, and for some a little bit more moderately. Asking about the expectations that they had with the fellowship, you can see that almost 70% said that their expectations were fully matched, and most of them then partially matched. Moving on to what they felt they had gained from the program, and I think this is important. Next to the continued research activities, we can see that the access to infrastructure and resources was one of the main things. And then maybe for today, especially important is that new international collaborations and the integration into European research networks were really a noticeable effect of this program. I think this becomes very important also in the discussion today. We then asked them, because we are now talking about those who were displaced, right? So who are, let's call them the diaspora of Ukrainian scientists in other European countries. So to what extent were you able to contribute to Ukrainian science? And here also you can see that almost 2/3 feel that they did so or do so to a moderate extent, and the other third to a great extent, and no one felt that they could not contribute at all or to a small extent. The ways they contributed, also here you have two peaks. One is collaboration with Ukrainian institutions, maintaining professional ties. And the second one here is joint scientific publications, and the third one, joint research. So we can see that there's also a boost of collective research and publishing activities through this program. Asking on what would enable them to contribute even more, you can see that, which is probably not surprising, joint international funding schemes would help them to do so, but also support for remote collaboration, and then you can see that there were also some other responses, but these two are by far the most voted ones. Coming to a close, I think there are two more. We asked the host institutions when they applied for funding back then that they should already draft their plans on how they would actually help to organize the return or reintegration. Now, we have to think that this was back in 2022, and I think we were a bit over-optimistic speaking about return, sadly so. But you can see that asking the grantees today, there is a very mixed picture in terms of how they felt the host institution basically enhanced their potential return or reintegration. And now we can look at what did they actually return. So, no, sorry, there's this slide. So this is, I think, a striking picture. So out of those people who 3 years ago received the EFDS fellowship to stay at a host institution, 55% are still employed by this institution. I think that, I mean, that's an interesting finding, at least. So it means that the EFDS seems to have served as a seed funding, matching fund that was then basically taken over by other funding streams to make sure that the Ukrainians could remain in the research team of the host institution. Then the final question was, if applicable, because some have returned, but how realistic is it for you to return to the Ukraine within the next year? And here again, you can see that respondents feel very differently about this question. With this, I would like to thank you again for your attendance, for your participation. I'm really looking forward to the discussion, and we will have 2 sessions. The first one is on the current needs of Ukrainian science. There's then a break. We will then have a discussion on the support potential by those who have moved out of Ukraine, and then later on you're warmly invited to join for a networking reception on the beautiful rooftop terrace, if I'm not mistaken, of this academy. And in closing, it's my real pleasure, Professor Zagorodny, to ask you to join me on stage and to please address the audience on behalf of the National Academy of Science of Ukraine.
Thank you so much. Dear President Konarzewski, dear President Ravinsky, dear Professor Dushinsky, dear colleagues and friends, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome you on behalf of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. First, I'd like to express my gratitude to the organizers for the invitation and for the possibility to talk about the urgent needs of the Ukrainian research ecosystems. Dear colleagues, for the 5th year already, the National Academy of Sciences and its institute have been working in the condition of the aggressive war unleashed by the Russian Federation. Probably you know that 3 nights ago, Ukraine, especially Kiev, had suffered a massive drone and missile attack, and as a result of this attack, 8 institutes of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine have been damaged. Despite all the challenges and problems, scientists of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine continue to work on the tasks that have arisen with new realities. We have significantly expanded our research related to the defense and security of our states, but we don't stop the basic ones. Today, international cooperation is becoming increasingly important for the further progress of our academy. We are deeply grateful for the cooperation and assistance that we receive from our international partners. Currently, the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine is joining the International Coalition for Science, Research and Innovation in Ukraine and highly appreciates its activities. But at the same time, we believe that our cooperation should be mutually beneficial for each of the parties. And we already have such examples. Our goal today is not simply to restore the previous research space, but to rebuild it and create a capable, competitive, scientific and innovative ecosystem. Concerning the main discussion point, I will start with the problems that the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine has to solve as a priority. These are preserving human resources, restoring the destroyed and damaged infrastructure of scientific institutions, providing institutes with modern equipment, access to international research infrastructures. Accordingly, we see the following key points of international cooperation aimed to solving these problems: active participation of Ukrainian scientists in international programs and collaboration, as well as global research initiatives, expanding partnership with leading foreign scientific centers, creating joint research structures and bilateral exchange programs, creation and development of international centers of excellence in priority areas of research, active involvement of young people in scientific cooperation. To our opinion, this can be realized by the following actions: including initiating long-term programs to support high-level scientific research for scientific teams that remained in Ukraine. One example of such support is the long-term program of support for Ukrainian research groups launched jointly by the Polish Academy of Sciences and the United States National Academy of Sciences in 2023. The total funding of this program is approximately $8 million. This proven model of grant support for Ukrainian science in the future may become a model for other scientific institutions and organizations to follow. The next action could be participation in large-scale infrastructure projects. A vivid example of such interaction is the international initiative Light for Ukraine, a joint project to create a Ukrainian synchrotron radiation beam line in Poland at the Solaris facility on which Ukrainian and Polish scientists are working. Providing institute with scientific equipment, in particular already used, is no less important. The implementation of all tasks and functions assigned to the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine in the new conditions requires additional resources and support. Key support measures that are particularly effective, in our opinion, may include grant support of national and international funds that will help researchers continue their work and stay in science. In this regard, I should mention the grant assistance of ALLEA, which is in collaboration with the European Fund for Displaced Scientists and using donations from the Breakthrough Prize Foundation, allocates funds to Ukrainian scientific institutions to cover personal costs, purchase of critical important equipment and materials. This allows laboratories to continue their work directly in Ukraine. The next important measure is creation of joint centers of excellent science, co-funded by the parties. We have already created such centers in cooperation with the German colleagues. One more measure of support is introducing a remote research position in the case of long-term program initiated by the Polish Academy of Sciences mentioned above. This opens the possibility for Ukrainian researchers to remain in Ukraine while simultaneously conducting research for foreign institutions and receiving funding from them. Introducing special EU programs aimed at the strengthening and research landscape of Ukraine through targeted support and capacity building initiative also is very useful. The Horizon project could be a good example of such program. Finally, we need creating optimized green corridors for the transfer of donated scientific equipment and instruments from European institutions to Ukraine research institutes. Speaking about how the ALLEA member academies can help us to keep researchers in Ukraine, we can propose the following actions. Particularly, we see the possibility of a new initiative of ALLEA member academies to create bilateral centers of advanced research in the format of mirror laboratories between the Institute of our Academy and the ALLEA member research organizations co-founded by the parties. Such a format of cooperation based on an agreement of memorandum of understanding would allow performing part of the research for Ukrainian scientists who are in Ukraine without moving them abroad. At the same time, they would have access to equipment, high-performance computers or databases. One more important action of ALLEA member academies could be facilitation to support a network of so-called NASUS alumni, that is scholars working in Europe who received support from the European Fund for Displaced Scientists. The second action concerns providing our research institute with second-hand equipment. So ALLEA's appeal to the members for donation the second-hand equipment while upgrading or renewing their experimental base to the Academy's Institute would be one of the actual support steps. This approach matches with so-called greening of research practices stipulated by Green Era and meets the United Nations goals for sustainable development on the use of resources. We have already a wish list of needed equipment and no internal practical instrument to exempt of taxes while cross-border or in case of transfer the equipment as humanitarian assistance. One more action is about existing research infrastructure in Ukraine, including unique experimental facilities, objects of national heritage, and scientific museum exhibits. Reciprocal assessment and common use of research infrastructure located in Ukraine and other ALLEA member academies, not only more than expensive equipment, but also collections of plants, insects, other biological collections, banks of microorganisms and cell lines, libraries with unique editions located in the Academy's research institutes and might be of mutual interest for both Ukrainian and European researchers. Beyond the dedicated calls and projects within the EU Horizon Europe program, ALLEA member academies could launch bilateral cooperation program between National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine and ALLEA member academies that would stipulate the annual call for joint projects supported with staff exchange and activities stipulating the common use of the research infrastructure. This would be considered as a new initiative. We have very good experience of this kind of cooperation with the Polish Academy of Sciences based on the cooperation agreement. It includes the biennial call for the joint projects supported with staff exchange. Similar activities are in place with other academies in Central Europe, Slovakia, Hungary, Czech Republic. So perhaps it is time to expand this form of cooperation to other ALLEA members academy. Finally, taking this opportunity, I would like to thank the world scientific community once again for its assistance and support, for its belief in the prospects of our further scientific cooperation. We highly appreciate the efforts of our foreign colleagues and the partners to support the development of the science sphere of Ukraine. I am sure that with joint efforts, we will be able to overcome all difficulties and move forward. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for those very important intervention, and it will constitute the basis for further discussions that we will have during this meeting. And let me also mention that at the very end of the meeting, we will propose together with Professor Zagorodny kind of an appeal of this gathering to outside world that could be a final document that we'll propose to GA that we will have in 2 days also in Warsaw. So we can switch to further points of our program, and we will start with the session that will be moderated by Mateusz Białas. Let me mention, not everybody is aware of that Polish Academy of Sciences has its own office in Kiev, which at the moment works in Warsaw, but normally it is located in Kiev, and we have a staff working together with the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences and people who specialize in Ukraine. And Mateusz Białas is one of those people who speaks fluently Ukrainian language, knows the culture, knows the country. And Mateusz, please, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I would like to invite our two wonderful speakers to this panel, Natalia Vasilieva and Frederick Sondergaard. That's not just me briefly introduce yourselves. No, please sit. Please sit. Natalia is a senior researcher at the Institute of Applied Mathematics and Mechanics, the institute that was primarily based in Sloviansk, which Donetsk, and then moved to Sloviansk, and Sloviansk currently is like 15 kilometers from the front line. She obtained PhD in mathematics at the Institute of Applied Mathematics. She's an expert in analysis and applied mathematics, focusing on biomathematics and biomechanics. I will not go into details. Natalia has authored over 60 articles in scientific journals and closely collaborates with numerous scientists in Italy, US, and Austria. But she also combines the scientific experience with project management, with substantial experience as the head of several EU-funded projects, among its in Maria Curie Actions, Horizon, ALLEA, and Simons Foundation funded. Also we have Frederick Sondergaard, who represents the European Commission. He's a policy officer at Directorate General for Research and Innovation, it's DGRTD, where he works on international cooperation, particularly focused on Ukraine and Turkey. Mr. Sondergaard has also been closely involved in implementing Ukraine's associations to Horizon Europe and developing EU support measures for Ukrainian researchers and innovators affected by Russian full-scale invasion. But he also contributes to the Secretariat of the International Coalition for Science, Research and Innovation in Ukraine. So you will then briefly tell us a little bit more about actions. In addition, he also contributed to the European Commission's work related to EU accession process under Chapter 25 of the EU Acquis on Science and Research. So it is quite important also to look from Brussels' point of view how Ukraine performed in the and what kind of reforms has been undertaken. So Frederick will share a little bit more afterwards on that. Going into this panel with first, thank you, ALLEA, for raising this issue, because it's actually crucial to discuss. Still, because even so, the title of this panel is "Which are the most pressing needs of the Ukrainian research ecosystem?" And actually, it's almost the same question we asked ourselves on early morning on February 24, 2022. And the crucial was the proper assessment of the situation on the ground is crucial for tailored support, and this is obvious. And every time when we started our first short-term programs mentioned by President Konarzewski, and all initiatives undertaken by the Polish Academy of Sciences, short-term programs, which then evaluated into long-term programs, capacity building, but also bilateral mobility programs, which has not been suspended despite the war. We always asked ourselves what kind of initiatives will be beneficial also to Ukrainian counterparts, and what will be crucial for further development of science and for international cooperation of Polish and Ukrainian scientists. And I'm sure that similar initiatives have been undertaken by numerous institutions all over the world, and much has been done to keep science afloat. But still, we need to react rapidly to the situation both in Ukraine, and also all over the world. We are now in mid-2026 with hard winter just behind us, with electricity shortcuts, with heat problems with delivery, with cold institutes with on average like 6-8 degrees during the winter time. With staff shortages, which is also crucial not only in science but in many sectors, and with very, very limited funding. I believe not only in Ukraine but also in Poland. So it's not very easily actually to fundraise for more money. That what was already mentioned by President Rowiński. So it seems that we are approaching the situation that it's not only on, we do not discuss further development, but how to survive. And business is rather reluctant currently with going into Ukraine. We need to find these priorities. And I hope that this panel will give us more insights on the situation in Ukrainian research ecosystem. And that's what, when we discussed prior to this panel, first we'll start with general question of which are the most pressing needs of Ukrainian research ecosystem, and Natalia will start with the position of Ukrainian scientists, and then Frederick will share with us EU perspective on this issue. But despite the question itself, to avoid just enlisting that challenges, please also share with us how this needs can be met. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for invitation me. So, let's say, so maybe I not say news things, what condition we have. Now we lost human capital, like here, So now what we have after 4 years in war, we lost human capital, we destroyed physical capital. I keep in mind equipment, laboratory destroyed during the war, and we reduce international cooperation due to we have restriction to moving the terrible situation in Ukraine, and what we need now in this situation and what possible to solve. So I propose to focus on the possible solution, not probable solution. What do I keep in mind? Probable solution if we discuss how we return our science abroad to Ukraine now. Actually, it's impossible due to we cannot protect safety. Safety due to we have war, and safety is impossible. But we can renovate and supply Ukrainian scientists working inside Ukraine. Due to we scientists adopted to living in war condition and not living and working, especially if we remember what is a terrible winter and this situation. But what we need? We need, for example, the theoretical study and sociology study and some experimental study is different. For experimental study, we need equipment, but impossible to buy equipment and carry out to Ukraine due to it's destroyed. But what's possible to do? For example, level European Commission, for example, Horizon Europe or Europe 20, opens a call to renovate equipment for, let's say, Eastern University or Eastern institutes, which main requirements. So these institutes have to cooperate with Ukrainian institutes or university who carry out with experiments. So we buy with equipment located in the Eastern University, Eastern Center, and our Ukrainian scientists came to here with safety situation and carry out their experiments, maybe together with their colleagues for Polish, Hungary, Czech Republic, and so on. So that's why we supply research, experimental research in Ukraine due to with researchers living and working in Ukraine, but we can possibility to do research. And moreover, is a young scientist also made this possibility to participate with experiments and renovate research collaboration, and then we obtain teams who can apply for another grants for like Marie Curie grants, for Horizon Europe, and so. As for theoretical study, in some sense, what we need funds, and we need young scientists who, okay, we have students, and after 4 years, approximately, the master students preparing, and now after a year, we have PhD students. But PhD students have the interest to do research, and at least we're sure with the financial level it's enough to live in and work in. So that's why I think now maybe a new initiative, so Simon Foundation Fund apply call the creation excellent research center in Ukraine, approximately 10 centers, theoretical studies, which will finish, it seems, end of June. This supports actively working researcher who provide not ambition researcher only, but the training program for students. And in this way, we involve into research young students located in the university. So maybe this initiative should be supply the level, European Commission level, and so on. So, so thank you.
So, Frederick, EU perspective, Brussels.
The same question for me, yes. From the side of the European Commission, one thing that, of course, occupies us a lot is the EU enlargement process and Ukraine's adherence to Chapter 25 of the EU acquis. The EU acquis is the rules and laws that Ukraine needs to abide to in order to accede into the Union. And Chapter 25, governing science and research, is a quite peculiar chapter. We don't have a lot of legislation on EU level for science research. So what we are looking at is actually instead the administrative capacity of Ukraine to participate in the EU's framework program, which is Horizon Europe. And then that raises more question, what is administrative capacity really? Well, we're not going to go to the Ministry of Education and Science or anywhere else and count heads. So what we're looking at is the ability to implement measures that supports Ukraine's participation in Horizon Europe. So that very much, of course, as an institution, affects our outlook on Ukraine very much. And with that, there's some challenges, some very, very clear challenges that emerge. Ukrainian institutions need the right capacities and skills and know-how to participate in highly competitive grant programs like Horizon Europe. They need the research equipment in order to participate as well. They need international networks to form consortiums. And they need world-class research infrastructure to participate in those as well. At the same time, on government level, there needs to be the capacities to implement proper reforms to support Ukraine's integration into the European research area, adopt European practices into the Ukrainian system more broadly, and to overcome some of the administrative burdens that many researchers face in Ukraine right now, keeping them away from doing meaningful science instead of less meaningful tasks and repetitive tasks. And I mean, this is something that occupies us very much right now. And we can also talk about funding needs in Ukraine as well. What we are doing on the European Commission side is, for the wider reform measures, we continue to have dialogue with the administration in Ukraine to support their wider integration into the European research area. However, we are locked in the funding we have available. Theoretically, we have 95 billion euros under Horizon Europe, but that has legislation around it. We cannot renovate research equipment. We cannot use it to purchase research equipment. We can only do what the legislation allows us to do. And within that framework, we're trying to figure out what is possible and what is not. We're always working in a gray zone of what is possible. And then within this gray zone, we have launched the Horizon Europe office in Ukraine that can help Ukrainians access more grants under Horizon Europe, overcoming some of these burdens on financing. we have launched Marie-Sklodska reactions to support Ukrainian displaced researchers. And more recently, we have started ring-fencing budget for Ukrainian science under the traditional Horizon Europe calls as well, to allow them to participate in international consortiums as well more. But since I am restricted in the financing I have available, I think what Ukraine really needs is a multi-stakeholder approach. Not only looking to the European Commission, because we are restricted in the things we can do, but also looking to a broader set of stakeholders out there who all have a role to play, and focusing on the challenges that we can overcome as the organizations we are together. And this will lead me into the International Coalition for Science, Research and Innovation, which I will talk about, I think, in the next question. But then I also want to echo something that President Zagarotny said, is that it needs to be mutually beneficial. So a need can also be something that you need to do. And I think Ukrainian science needs to get into a spot where it can contribute effectively to Ukraine's modern and sustainable recovery. And my logic in saying that is that at some point the war will be over and there will be a recovery dialogue and funding being implemented in Ukraine. And there will be a long list of different priorities, from investing in hospitals, schools, critical research infrastructure, energy infrastructure. And on that list, we need to place science somewhere. And that brings us to a discussion we have much across Europe, is should we invest in applied research or should we invest in fundamental research? Should it be bottom-up or top-down? And Ukraine is facing the same dialogue. What we need to make sure is that Ukraine is able to implement its funding effectively, invest in its future, and that research is being done to address some of the challenges associated with Ukraine's broader recovery. And this is why we, under Horizon Europe, have set in motion calls to address anything from the soil pollution caused by military activities or cancer infrastructure. Before the war, Ukraine had the highest child mortality in cancer in the world. And this is also something that science can contribute to, and it needs to contribute to. And it will make it easier for us to sell the case that we need to invest in science as part of Ukraine's modern and sustainable recovery.
Okay, thank you for sharing your ideas with us. And so I will ask one more question here, and then I will open discussion to you as well. And so, Natalia, in your opinion, what should be done to attract scientists to return to Ukraine or to stay in science? Because that's the first question, is like to go back from abroad, from good contracts. It's like the step into the next panel a little bit, because the panel led by Professor Duszyński will discuss it a little bit more earlier. But you have substantial experience in abroad, but you went back to Ukraine. So, like, okay, despite family issues, what should be done to attract scientists to go back, and also for young scientists to stay in science, not going to business, not going to other sectors?
So, first of all, if you say about how come back scientists from abroad to Ukraine, now it's impossible. In the short perspective, it's possible also due to we don't protect their life. Now we're living and working in Europe or USA and so on. They obtain enough financial funding for living and make research, and also we protect about. So, and how we can attract to come back home to bomb? To what do you know? What several days ago what happened in Kyiv, and we say welcome to Kyiv. Due to especially I keep in mind the scientists who left Ukraine with her family or his family. So it's impossible. So, but instead of this, we can attractive young students or young scientists to research who stay in Ukraine. But for this, we need funding. So without financial situation, it's impossible due to 2 weeks ago, I communicated with students who studied in the Architecture and Building University in Kyiv, and now with a bachelor's degree level, and they working in projects for building construction and obtain financial more than our PhD students. And why they come to research? It's impossible. So that's why we need enough financial level for the students, and moreover, we need some, I said, government decision. For example, we, as for government, we need law which tax free for any donation to research. Due to now, for example, when obtain ALLEA Foundation, we pay 45 taxes for this grant to taxes. So it's taking account, so it's not so a lot of amount. It's so big. So that's why the government level. Any donation, any grants for research, at least during the war and at least 3 or 5 years after war, should be free without any tax. Sorry. So that's why.
Okay, that's interesting. We can discuss afterwards, like during the break. Okay, Frederick, you mentioned already International Coalition for Science, Research and Innovation in Ukraine. It's been launched like a year ago in Rome during the Ukraine Recovery Conference. How it may help? Because so far we almost have around 40 or 50 members, 45. We, as the Polish Academy of Sciences, we have just joined the coalition like a week or maybe 2 weeks ago. So we are a new and fresh member, but we'll be highly involved also. So how it may help, like looking forward? Thank you.
Yes, the coalition can be a strange beast to deal with. And it is also because it is a evolving and ever-changing entity. Let me begin by setting out the analysis that we made before launching the coalition. It has indeed to do with this, is that we are, all of us who are engaged in science, we believe that it is important and we want to help, but we are also restricted in our own different ways. As I told you, at DG Research Innovation, we have a legislation that dictates what we can fund and not. It made certain actions very, very difficult for us to support, even though we can see one of maybe the most urgent actions to actually implement in Ukraine is to provide energy equipment to research institutions during the winter. And with that logic, we sought out to create a better format to coordinate actions and to figure out amongst a broader range of stakeholders who can deal with what challenge in order to try to cover as many bases as possible. It's not a promise to deal with all challenges as they are, but try to solve as many of them as possible. And that was a spirit that led to the first thoughts around the coalition. In parallel, there was a discussion in the G7 Science Technology Ministerial in 2023, which happened to take place in the Tohoku region of Japan. Tohoku might sound familiar to you. It was the region of Japan that was suffered from an earthquake, followed by a tsunami and a nuclear disaster in Fukushima, and where the Tohoku Region University played a significant role in recovering the Tohoku region after. And that led the G7 countries to issue a communique on the importance of science research innovation, acknowledging the role of it in Ukraine's recovery, and also the international community's role in supporting it. And together then in that G7 format with the Italians, and the Ukrainian government and UNESCO, we launched the International Coalition for Science Research Innovation. And it's a format, first of all, to discuss the challenges that Ukraine is facing on a regular basis with a commitment to do it long term. So this we do in what we call the technical level meeting, offering technical level staff to come together, bring in Ukrainian interventions into what the challenges Ukrainian research is facing, and then sharing a bit about what initiatives are ongoing to know what each other are doing, if we can complement each other's action, if we can contribute to each other's actions, or if there is a gap somewhere where we can intervene. But it's also a format to advocate for the role of science, research, and innovation more broadly towards other stakeholders. So Matthias mentioned the Ukraine Recovery Conference, where we'll have an in-person meeting. This is the high-level steering committee of the international coalition, which aims to be the political discussion format where we bring key decision makers to discuss the role of science, research, and innovation in Ukraine's recovery, and to use the platform in the margins of the Ukraine Recovery Conference to advocate for the role of science, research, and innovation, make sure that it remains a part of the agenda. And that's the coalition as it is formally set out right now. However, as I said, it's an evolving beast. And what we have realized is two things. We need more dedicated discussions to launch initiatives to address challenges in Ukraine. One thing that was mentioned now was the donations of research equipment. This is exceedingly difficult to deal with, both in terms of logistics, the risks that this equipment doesn't reach its final destination, customs, VAT, dual-use exports. There's a range of challenges being dealt with there. Another one is how we engage the Ukrainian diaspora to support Ukraine more effectively and more systematically. Another challenge is how can we make sure that local and regional developments take into account the potential of their local research institutions in their recovery and bring that into developing Ukraine further. So for that reason, we have also launched now what we call communities of interest. Informal formats for anyone who wants to be a part of it in the coalition to try to address some very specific challenges, namely under these three areas. So we are developing a manual to support research equipment donations to Ukraine, answering many of the key questions that are being raised right now. Yevgenia is leading a community of interest on engaging the Ukrainian science diaspora and trying to structure this approach more broadly and mobilizing a bit more, and so on. So the coalition is evolving to be more action-oriented and trying to deal with the challenges we can deal with. But, and I will try to be brief now, there is one piece of the puzzle in my mind that remains. There is a evolving architecture developing right now around Ukraine's recovery. There's many coalitions and alliances and different mobilization of partners trying to advocate for their role in Ukraine's recovery. And the coalition stands amongst them. But to be successful in bringing science, research, and innovation into Ukraine's recovery, we need to speak the same language as the institutional donors, bilateral government agency, or anthropologic organizations who will fund Ukraine's recovery so that we can convince them to invest into science, research, and innovation. So I think the coalition will also move in a direction where we try to develop a catalog, if you like, of ideas or plans or initiatives that are ongoing that can be the baseline or the foundation for wider recovery efforts for Ukrainian science, research, and innovation. Let me give you an example very quickly. We fund the Research Infrastructure for the Future of Ukraine project under Horizon Europe. This project develops an investment roadmap for research infrastructure aligned with the S3 process. This will give us, on the other side, a document that tells the Ukrainian government how to invest into Ukrainian research infrastructure to align with European priorities. And this is something I or someone else or the coalition as an entity can go to an institutional donor or another partner and say, this, we believe, is a good initiative to invest as part of Ukraine's recovery. So, to bring it very shortly, the coalition can offer a format for dialogue on Ukrainian science, research, and innovation. It offers a format to work jointly together under a shared umbrella to address key challenges in Ukraine. And I hope to push it in a direction where we can also use it to anchor ourselves in the wider discussion around Ukraine's recovery. Thank you.
Thank you so much for both for this input. So now we have 15 minutes, more or less, for questions and answers from the audience. So if there's any question, please raise your hand and then briefly introduce yourself and waiting for your questions. Okay, do we have support? Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Let me introduce myself. I'm director of Institute of Voloshin, Urology, Psychiatry and Narcology of National Academy of Medical Science, distributed in Kharkiv. It's the eastern part of our country. And I want to say that current war is a tragedy for our country, for our people. But from other hand, it's a unique possibility to investigate the state of mental health, for instance, in this situation, because it's a unique situation, at least for Europe. And I speak not only for cooperation with some medical specialists, but first of all for specialists in the field of IT, information technology, and maybe in the field of artificial intelligence, because we have a huge number of patients who need for medical help, special medical help, psychological help, psychiatric help, but there is no any possibilities to support this, to provide this help by usual way. But that is why we need new solution, and I hope this solution can be used of the wide use of instruments of artificial intelligence, some system for support of clinical decision support system, chatbot, and so on. And now we try to find the partners in Europe for develop these instruments, for apply these instruments for our institutions. Every year, our institute can generate a huge number of data for learning of system of bigger language system, because we have about 4,000 of patients, inpatients, and about more than 10,000 patients, outpatients. That is why we think that's a beautiful possibility to cooperate with the European institution in this field. Thank you.
That was comment or question? Because the comment, I believe. Okay, maybe short reply that at least in scheduling tasks of the representation office in Kyiv, I'm trying to select topics that will be crucial also first from sharing Polish experience, and also crucial for rebuilding Ukraine. And briefly, like a month ago, we were in Lviv with a conference on war-related psychological problems on PTSD with military person both from Poland and also from Warsaw University, from the Academy of Sciences. So obviously this crucial issue that we need to discuss because Ukrainian experience, how it's obviously it sounds terrible, but and there's no other field where it can be developed as well, and where this research can be done on PTSD in different fields, not only military but also within civilians. So more questions do we have, or comments? Yes.
Thank you very much. First, my name is Volodymyr. I'm deputy head of Paladin Institute of Biochemistry in Kyiv. Just came from Kyiv with my colleague. First of all, thank you all for raising such important questions. And thank you to ALLEA for support. We also were supported by ALLEA, as it was told before. But I have a question. about the scheme of the grant support provided by the European partners to Ukrainian. Look, most of them are for displaced scientists, for scientists who move from Ukraine to Europe. They have good possibilities. Young people can come for scholarships, students can come. And how it looks like for those who are staying in Ukraine? Okay, you have problems, let's take all your talented people abroad. Very nice. So how we can change it? Because we have a very good example. Thank you. We had very good example with EFDS Line 2, when money came directly to the institutes, universities in Ukraine, helping them to restore after their first months of invasion. It was, I think, in my opinion, it was extremely successful, and I would like to thank everybody again and encourage everybody who can do something in this direction to do it and to work together in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is a discussion I see a lot, and I have a lot of respect for. But the fact is that of the over 200 million euros that we have spent from Horizon Europe on Ukraine and to support Ukraine, only 45 million has been spent on facilitating Ukrainians abroad under Marie Sklodska-Curie. So our primary focus is on Ukrainians who remain in Ukraine. However, for Horizon Europe exclusively, it is an extremely competitive program. It is a difficult program. I think for many Ukrainians, especially if you do not have experience with grants, it is very challenging to access it. For me, it's a foundational aspect of whatever architecture we develop to support Ukrainians. The key thing is that, and I'm looking at all the other people who are not Ukrainian here right now, is that you work together with Ukrainians in international consortia and help them access funding through Horizon Europe. That is the best way we can support Ukrainians who remain in Ukraine. On top of that, Ukrainians need to build capacity to be better at receiving and handling grants as well. So tasks like research management and grant management capacities in Ukraine are extremely important to develop as well. So if you're not involved in international consortium or directly in research, what you can do is to support Ukrainian institutions in developing specifically these capacities that will in the long term help them win more funding as well. I think we need to work more together with different partners to provide more joint funding opportunities in Ukraine. The European Commission took really the first step towards really putting money on the table for Ukrainian research and joint research with Ukraine. I think many more partners should be involved in this as well, because it is really something that counters brain drain right here and right now. And Ukraine has a very, very good infrastructure for handling this through the National Research Foundation of Ukraine. So it's something we can do with good conscience, is launching joint research calls with Ukraine and providing more funding there. I don't think we should continue the old way of funding Ukrainian research. I think the most beneficial thing we can do now is make it competitive, make it internationally collaborative, and give them experiences with other European research ecosystems. Thank you for the question.
And maybe just one comment. We have a very good scheme at the Polish Academy of Sciences with supporting within the long-term program when all money go directly to scientists in Ukraine. So without supporting, the traveling or the brain drain. So then, but I believe Volodymyr will discuss that. One more question, please.
It's a short comment and also a question. Yes, we have to build a peer review system to distribute the support to Ukrainian colleagues. This LTP program that just Mateusz mentioned is this kind of a program. We really put a lot of attention to distribute this money through a review grant process. And this is something that we should not miss. And of course, the scientists, you are the focus of our help, but I am repeating this again and again, without building the capacity for it. I mean, the science brokers, the knowledge brokers, the whole ecosystem that is needed to really distribute this money in a way that European Commission will be willing to help is something ahead of us. And this is, I can't say cost-free, but I was repeating this appeal on many times. Just embed some Ukrainians within the European Commission, within our granting agencies, just to let them know and learn how the system works. So then this will be more coherent with what we do in Europe. And of course, I was a little bit, I'm sorry for being blunt, Frederick, I was listening to you, and my impression, not for the first time when we are talking about European Commission, is that a list of things that is allowed is way, way shorter than a list of things that are unfortunately not possible to fund under the rules. And of course, this is a very exceptional situation. We have a war situation. Nobody has ever thought of bringing this into European legislation. So this is a new situation that requires a very ingenuity in the approach, but also in the upcoming new financial perspectives. Unless we build this special ways of financing Ukraine, this problem will be even bigger than today. So that's something, the challenge for all of us, I mean, European nations. So this is something that we have to do outside the science.
Thank you for that comment. You know, that's also a thing you see nationally often be debated, what is allowed under Horizon Europe and what is not allowed, and there's some frustration over this. Usually how it's dealt with within the EU is, of course, the Horizon Europe is for pure research and everything that is pertaining to that, and then we try to use the other funding streams that we have available, structural funds and so on, to fund research equipment, building new research institutions and so on. And those are the things that Ukraine really, really, really needs right now. And we don't have a funding instrument that can deal with that right now, partly also because of the urgent needs Ukraine is facing in many other sectors right now. But that's also what I was talking about. There will come a point where normality will set in and we start talking about recovery and these funding instruments become available. And we need to be ready for that moment. So I'm not telling us to sit down and wait and do nothing. I'm telling us prepare for that moment and build exactly these capacities that needs to be built and build the plans and to be able to invest into science research and innovation in Ukraine, as we have been used to in Europe, in Poland as well, using structural funds to invest into science.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Okay. So if not, I like because we have repeating a little bit that we need more investment here. Like tomorrow here in Warsaw will be like big, I wouldn't say, let's say demonstration, but let's say grassroots movement from the scientist point of view for higher spendings for science up to 3% of GDP. So the problem of money obviously is all over Europe and competing with the US, with China, and it will not be actually very easy to allocate billions also for additional programs very easily, particularly in institutions, in budgetary institutions as Polish Academy of Sciences. We are not as flexible as private funds, private foundations, or in the US or or in Europe, but we are doing our best also to cooperate with business. What might be the role of business in this case? Because in rebuilding science in Ukraine, do you see the space there or not? That's the question to our panelists.
No, it's really difficult questions and difficult answers due to its unstable situations. Business, maybe it's not so think a good idea to invest project where unstable, non-safety territory, or maybe research. As for research, maybe we consider theoretical or IT technology, so with research maybe support due to it's not so a lot of expenses for facilities, or what do you need? You need your notebook, for example, papers. So, but as for business, we would like to obtain more, not only theoretical or a lot, a very small laboratory study. It's necessary to at least prototype for business, and business then okay, it's okay for us, and we invest in this project. But as for theoretical, we propose or we do some simulation, or or maybe it's not so good idea, and account in this situation. It's so I am not sure what business will be invest.
It takes 25 years to really get the dividend on science. It's a long-term investment when we invest in science. But we must also believe that Ukraine will remain a country in 25 years after the peace settles. When I talked about bridging a narrative between science and the institutional donors who will fund Ukraine's recovery, I think it's precisely this challenge is convincing them that science has a role to play. And the first pillar of that challenge is to make sure that Ukrainian science is equipped to deal with its own recovery. And then secondly is to demonstrate it. So I think we need to put in motion more projects and funding for joint research that can deal with, that already today can start working on addressing some of the challenges Ukraine is facing. There's been done joint funding on mental health, for example, in Ukraine. As I mentioned, we are funding an initiative to provide innovative solutions for addressing soil pollution in Ukraine. There's many challenges, cancer, I talked about before, the heavy industry in Ukraine's east, also related to CBAM, which is the carbon emission scheme that they will need to adhere to. There's a wide range of challenges. How can we make sure that the AI and drone proficiencies that have been developed in Ukraine can be made use of in the public sector and can support Ukraine's long-term growth and recovery? And in a sense, Ukraine is already investing in science, in part, in that area of it, and has shown itself the potential of it. I mean, it will never be a top priority, but I think we can make the case, if we can demonstrate today the potential of science, that we should invest in it as part of Ukraine's recovery.
Okay, thank you so much. And at this question, we will end our panel. So moving after a short break into another panel on the role of science diaspora. So thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our audience.
So we have a short break, half-an-hour break, and then for those who are observing us online, we will meet exactly in half an hour, and let's get some rest. Thank you very much, and we can applaud the panel again. we should slowly come back, otherwise we'll never finish. So that's probably time. Now we'll switch to another problem. So we'll try to answer the question, how can Ukrainian researchers abroad best support science in Ukraine? And this part of our discussion will be chaired by Professor Jerzy Duszyński, former president of the Polish Academy of Sciences, a molecular biologist, and a person who is now dedicated and is an advisor to the president of the Polish Academy of Sciences to the matters related to collaboration with Ukraine and support for Ukraine. Jerzy, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to the stage, my great friend. So I used to work as his deputy when he was the president of the Academy. Please.
Thank you, thank you. It's for Paweł. Oops. So to bring some dynamics into our session, I would like to introduce an impulse. And this impulse will be given by experience base at the Space Research Center of the Polish Academy of Sciences. And you see two prominent scientists will give us this kind of impulse, Galina Litvinenko and Hanna Rothkeld. Do I pronounce well? Perfect. Okay, please. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But please do speak to the microphone.
Yes, yes,
okay.
Yes. Okay. And this is, the change is like this, yes, to...
Yes. So this one.
To this one, okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, presidents of Polish Academy of Sciences, and of course, presidents of Ukrainian Academy of Science. My name is Galina Litvinenko, and I'm a senior scientist at the Institute of Radio Astronomy, National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine in Kharkov. And I still now currently working at the Space Research Center, Polish Academy of Sciences, in the Department of Plasma Physics by the lead of the Professor Hanna Rothkeld. As you know, after the full-scale invasion, Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, scientific work in Kharkov became extremely difficult. So I would like to say what my talk will be unlike the previous presentation. So it may be mostly emotions and mostly experience with international collaborations here in Poland. So access to, I continue. Access to our working infrastructures was limited, and research activities were disrupted, and everyday life changes dramatically. And I think all of you know about this. And unfortunately, this terrible situation is still continuing. In response to these challenges, the European Fund for Displaced Scientists was established to support researchers from Ukraine, and of course, not only Ukrainian research, but they try to support the Ukrainian institution. And this support made it possible for many Ukrainian scientists, including me, to continue research and remain connected to the international scientific community. For me personally, this IFFDS support grant gave the possibility or opportunity to work with the highly professional, friendly, and supportive team of the Plasma Physics Department and the Space Research Center in Warsaw. It's allowed me also to continue my active scientific work, international collaborations, and conference participations, also publications during this very difficult period. So today, I would like very briefly to return you to the science research and explain what we did together with the team of the Department of Plasma Physics in the Space Research Center in Warsaw. So the main topic of our interest, and it was very lucky for me, but this topic was simultaneous with the topic which was mainly used in the Space Research Center. It was the investigation of the Jovian decameter non-thermal sporadic radio emission. The Jovian non-thermal sporadic radio emission is one of the most powerful planetary emission which can be observed from the ground-based instruments. And Jovian emission was generated in the magnetosphere of Jupiter, and it's strongly influenced by the unique combination of the planets and its Galilean moon Io. You can see it's, I don't know if you have, you can see here the dynamic spectra and the scheme of the connection with Jupiter and his moon Io. And what I can say, what this science is very important, especially for the, for instance, if we study the spectral parameters of a Jovian decameter emission, we can restore the plasma process in the magnetosphere of Jupiter, as well as we can restore the characteristics of plasma media along the propagation path through the sources to the ground-based observatory. So we can diagnostics, for instance, the alpha ionospheric parameters, which lead us to the diagnostic of a space weather, which is now a very important topic for the all humanity life in the Earth. In the right side of the slide, you can see the instruments which we used for our work. On bottom right corner, you can see the Ukrainian T-shape radio telescope second modifications. Unfortunately, this telescope was occupied at the beginning of the war, and now we have not access to make a new experimental observations, and so we can use only the archival data. And in the bottom side of this, in the bottom of the right side, you can see the low frequency array, which is here in Poland, in Borowice, and the supervisor of this instrument is the Space Research Center here in Warsaw. And I would like to say several words about this LOFAR system. This LOFAR system is one of the most observatory in the Europe, which consists of even more than several LOFAR stations in different countries of Europe, and Poland is very active in this research, and is one of foundation of this consortium, and give good technical and scientific involved to this project. And as for me, I can say, personally for me, for instance, when I began to work at the Space Research Center, it was a new experience, for instance, to work with LOFAR data and to know how it's make observation program and how it was, whereas it was the data processing, and of course I use the experience which I had before with UTR-2, with UTR-2 telescope, and I hope that in future it will be opposite situation, when it's my dream, when we will restore it after the war, our infrastructure and our telescopes, we can use the experience of LOFAR, and we can maybe in future make even the simultaneous observational company. Especially for me, it will be important if this company, this campaign will be made for the observation of the Jovian decameter emission. And here you can see the observation, data processing, and main scientific results which we get during the granted period of the work. So the main algorithm which we use to the processing spectral parameters of the Jovian emission, we use the multi-scale analysis based on the Fourier transform and the radio frequency interference mitigation procedure, which was developed by us specially to obtain the weak and rare events of the dynamic spectrum. And I can also say what the Jovian decameter emission and even the Jupiter planets can be used as the prototype in the future for the searching the new exoplanet systems. And our main results, you can see our main results. I can, of course, to read it from the slide, but I think you can find it here. So a significant part of our work was focusing on multi-scale analysis, I say before, and with this multi-scale analysis and RFI mitigation procedure, we studied different types of the narrow band and wide band emission. We can consider the spectral parameters in the multi-scale temporally intervals from the millisecond to the hours, and for narrow band frequency range till the wide band frequency range. And several examples, and also one of the most of the finding, it was what we can, using our proposed by us algorithms, we can find the structure on the dynamic spectra, which became to the two synchronous sources which we observed simultaneously from different hemisphere of planets with different polarization, different circular polarization. And it can be used in future for the space mission, data processing, or for these events, because these events is very rare and really very weak. And on the right side, you can see also our finding due to the method which we used. We found the very quickly changes of spectral parameters of Jovian dome emissions, and it was changes in the millisecond scale. Okay, and so we can propose the model of the potential drops in the Jovian magnetosphere, and here you can read scientific impact publication which was done during this period, and the plan for our future work. And I only very briefly would like to say about the JUICE mission, which is Jupiter Ice Moon Explorer mission, which is now at road to Jupiter. And we plan in future to use this mission, the observation of this mission simultaneously with the LOFAR station in Borovets in the LOFAR system in Europe as interferometer. And here you can see, the examples of already given some bursts which is obtained by JUICE mission and which is obtained by LOFAR station in Poland. And so before finish it, I would like gradually acknowledge the European Fund for Displaced Sciences and for ALLEA, and also for the support of the Space Research Center, for his hospitality, for his friendly, and for his help me in scientific work and is in the everyday maintenance. And you can see the picture of our scientific life and our normal life in Warsaw. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Sorry for delay, sorry.
No, it's okay. You demonstrated that the sky is the limit for Ukrainian science, you know. Yes. And I congratulate. It is perfect, and it is really an impulse. We see enormous potential.
Excuse me, because I understand what maybe Jovian dome emission is not interesting for all the persons here.
Of course, not for all, but for me, for sure.
Oh, it's very nice, thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the session. As an introduction, I have to say that for many, many years, I was involved in cooperation with Ukrainian science. Before the war, I visited Kiev, I visited Lviv. I was having very, very frequent meetings with friends from Bogomolets Institute, Paladin Institute, Molecular Genetics and Molecular Biology Institute, my field, life sciences. Then the war broke out, and again, we visited together with Mateusz. After the war broke out 15 times, Kiev and Lviv. Actually, Mateusz visited 30 times, but as for me, 15 times. I have very dear friends. I have very, I think, good, you know, recognition what's going on in Ukraine. And we know it is a very big tragedy. And we know it is something that is close to our borders, and we really appreciate heroic efforts of Ukrainian people. We really understand that they are fighting for us. We are next to them. But of course, people in Portugal, France, or Italy have not this kind of perspective. But I tell you, I was having, Mateusz mentioned, a conference on PTSD. First, it was a very big international conference that Polish Academy organized with international involvement of top specialists and top Ukrainian specialists. Then we went with top Polish specialists to meet top Ukrainian specialists in Lviv. And it was a very, very interesting meeting because it was very focused. And during this meeting, we asked them one question. What do you regret that you haven't done before the war if you would know that the war would start? And the answer was following. We didn't believe the war will start, most of us. It is exactly the situation of Polish people. But, of course, we know that there are some signs of hybrid wars characteristic already approaching us. So my question to colleagues from Ukraine scientific fields, what would you do before the war to prepare for the war, for the situation that tragic as it is? You know, what kind of, it is, the answer was what we've heard. We had no shelters. We should concentrate on shelters. We have no training in medical aid. We should concentrate on this. This is all true. But what scientists should do? And I think the scientific community, Ukrainian scientific community, and that's the topic of our presentation, will sort of make this kind of knowledge present in European Union, because let's face the truth, European Union is now the main hope for supporting Ukrainian nation and country. The point is that, of course, it is a huge devastation that's going on, and we are all aware of this. I was just talking to President Zagorodny. Just 3 days ago, in one of the institutes of Ukrainian National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine, 100 doors were broken, destroyed. You know, imagine. This means 100 rooms. This means very serious destruction. And 8 institutes were destroyed. Now we hear that this kind of approach of Russian aggression will be intensified. The foreigners are asked to leave Kiev, for example, because what kind of atmosphere it means, you know. How can you do science in this kind of situation when you lose young people, when you lose infrastructure, when you lose perspective, when you lose years of your highest creativity? And what can we do? The point is, we are discussing this for 4 years already. And of course, everyone knows these kind of things that we are speaking, you know. What something new we can do? What something new we can imagine that would help? Because with these billions of euros that will flow to Ukraine, what kind of lobbying the scientists can make, you know? It is exactly the same situation in Poland. Tomorrow, we will have very big demonstration because we, the scientists in Poland, are demonstrating about neglecting of scientific community in Poland, financing and institutions. It will be about 10,000 people, I think, on the streets, very close. It will start at 1 o'clock, so exactly the time ALLEA will start. But maybe some of you will have a chance to see it. And please join us, because it is our... No. I'm not speaking, no, but colleagues from that will not be at the meeting. So now I would like to invite the panelists, very distinguished scientists. I will start with, actually, I know all of them. I've met all of them. I discuss with all of them. But because time is so scarce, I will not introduce I will introduce very shortly. So, Irina Kulpaeva from Kharkiv National University on radio electronics. Irina, please. But she is now in France. Please, sit. Now, Marie-Louise Noche, the past president of Royal Danish Academy of Sciences and Letters. Royal, so she will bring dignity to our panel. And vice president of, I don't know whether I can sit even here. And Evgenia Polishuk, please, Evgenia. Actually, Evgenia works in Krakow right now. But of course, Irina and Evgenia has a very good understanding of the situation of scientific community. And with Marie-Louise, we have also this kind of understanding because we've been following the situation and we've been discussing this many, many times. So to start the topic, what the scientific community that is spread all over the Europe or even all over the world. For example, in Canada, there is a very strong representation, and in the States. What you can do, maybe I start with Evgenia, because you've been sort of networking these people.
Yes, good evening for everyone, and that's a really interesting question. Who they are, those scientific community, Ukrainian scientific community, which is now, I think we are talking about those who are abroad, yes? Or in general? Abroad, okay. So, yeah, of course. So, we tried, within the Ukrainian science diaspora, we tried to map scientists due to their field of science. And if you will visit our website, so you can see that we use OECD classification of scientists. It's because it's important then to search them for cooperation and for establishing fast cooperation. The second criteria, how do they also classify? This is those who left Ukraine before 2022 and after 2022. Because the potential of those scientists, then it comes about cooperation, is different. And of course, those who left Ukraine before 2022, they are stronger, and the kind of their support is also diverse and more impactful, I would say.
So we speak about males.
Not really.
After the war, it was
but you're right.
Yes?
Not exactly so. Again, classifying our diaspora community, 74% are females and 25%, yes, are males. You are right, exactly. Then then it comes about also the community, their science of interest, and also how we can also distinguish them on those who are pure scientists, who works in Academy of Science, and those who came from universities, from academies. So this is the main three, let's say, classification.
Discriminate these two institutions.
No, I don't, it's not about this, because we are uniting, we try to unite the efforts of Ukrainian scientists all over the world. And we don't want to split them, because it's not the question of how, but we have to understand who they are. We have to understand how to communicate with them. That's
yes, I understand. Yeah. In reality, in Ukraine, the National Academy of Sciences is the major scientific institution. When you speak about publications and so on and so on. So this is what you said. Yes. No. You can continue. Okay. You can continue.
Yes, it's really a surprise. Yes, you told us that you have some questions which will surprise us. I haven't told you that actually people who, because of publications, the National Academy of Science is a major organization, but I will agree with you because of statistics shows us this, exactly. But what I would tell you that the scientists from the universities, and what we again observe due to our observation, that scientists from the universities in the European Union and the US are, let's say, more active in support, and they are more visible in support. But probably again, because this is again Academy of Sciences, they cooperate with Academy of Sciences, universities with universities, and it can be like this. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you contact them? It is upside down or bottom up approach?
Honestly, we do not do any promotional activity, so people join us by themselves to this map, and actually who consider themselves those who are like Ukrainian scientists in diaspora. There's also some discussions about who are diaspora scientists, and it's a question. But they join us, we verify them by their ORCID, by their publications, and we also then allocate them at our map. And before the previous week, those information was kind of open. It was really very simple instruments to get in touch with people. It was like field of science, sorry, then email, contact email, and the name of this person, and also ORCID number, so they could check it. But right now, we understand that it probably is better to hide this information and also to open the information from science, and also somehow to invite people to register to our map. And it's not only open for Ukrainian scientists in diaspora, it also must be open for Ukrainian scientists in Ukraine. Because the main problem due to our survey, which we conducted last year in November, this is a communication. And what we revealed as well, like communication on individual level, like Ukrainian scientists abroad and Ukrainian scientists in Ukraine, they cover by themselves, you know, so people who want to support their peers in Ukraine, they are doing this without any notification or, I don't know, any information. But what people in diaspora tell that there should be also scientists who are open to cooperation, from Ukraine, who are open to cooperation. So therefore, on this digital map, we are developing kind of new tool where Ukrainian scientists in Ukraine can register their micro-research hub on the map in certain field. But mapping scientists, this is only the one thing, and I think that every university in Ukraine, every research institution in Ukraine has to implement the diaspora mechanism into their internalization strategies. And of course, diaspora couldn't resolve all the problem, but support in international integration yeah, European integration, they can be helpful. The second thing after this mapping is really communication and how to communicate. And we already have 17 organizations in 15 countries, diaspora organizations, Ukrainian diaspora organizations. And you know, it's good that they united because they are Ukrainians. But to be supportive, to be impactful for their countries, they have to be united by the professional fields as well. So this will be better contribution for supporting Ukraine. And of course, it's important, those who left Ukraine before 2022, to support those who are still, who left after. It's about, again, it's about integration into European research area. And the faster they will be integrated, and it's not about brain drain, it's about brain gain. We still have 30% of Ukrainian scholars, scientists, however do they call them, who work online remotely on the Ukrainian institutions. And these are people, first candidates to be returned back. So, and this is like broken the myth that no one wants to return to Ukraine. So therefore, in our coalition of interest meeting, we put the question about returning back Ukrainian scientists as well. So cooperation, communication on the field of science, this is like also important. And then we have to understand who works with whom, what communities we have, and then to develop a mechanism for pushing their project further.
Fantastic. I have one question. We think the tragic situation is that no one knows when the war will finish. But it will finish one day. And then, what kind of mechanism can you propose or can you imagine to keep male scientists inside of Ukraine? Because now they cannot leave, but they have wives, they have children abroad, in millions of them. And we think there is a probability that many of them, after the war, after this kind of traumatic situation, can have temptation to leave Ukraine. Another, yes, there are islands of excellence, like drone. If you finish the war and there will be no border to not permit these specialists to go away, they will be immediately sucked to the West. You know, they will be so valuable, they will be offered such a big money and possibilities that they will be tempting to leave. Do you think about this kind of situation? Not, you know.
Thank you very much for this very important and very interesting question. So right now, for those scholars and for those male scientists who work in universities in Ukraine, already exists a kind of mechanism of reservation them from mobilization. Actually, it works. Of course, we know examples, and they left Ukraine for the conference and then they disappeared or something like that. Very few, honestly, very few. Yeah, but yeah. So, but anyway, they returned back. And we also have different cases of migration or adaptation. And it's difficult to be integrated as a scientist from, let's say, to this European model, let's say. And it's not only about for Ukrainians who wants to be integrated in Germany or Poles who wants to be integrated in Poland. It's kind of communities, you know. Sometimes it's very informal, but nevertheless. not all cases of migration and integration are successful. And it's kind of prevention mechanism, which probably not we created by ourselves, but it exists. You're very optimistic, I would say, probably about sorting after of this kind of specialists of males. And really, I would be happy if they had a chance to share their knowledge, or probably, again, to create some mechanism to invite other people to Ukraine and to work with Ukrainian scientists. That would be also a solution, and not only about military sector or industry. Kind of.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Last question to you. How many people are in this kind of network that you have created?
Those who registered, this is more than 400. Top countries are Germany, Poland, and the UK. Those who are not registered but work with us, more than 2,000.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now I will go to it is completely different perspective, because it is looking at the situation of Ukraine from a very advanced scientist, a very successful scientist, and also, you know, vice president of ALLEA, so hundreds of meetings with people and some discussion on these topics also. Marie-Louise, what are the main questions people will ask you, because they know you have a knowledge about the situation in Ukraine from other academies?
Good questions here. I think many of our academies in ALLEA are concerned about what can we do. And it's been since the beginning of the full-scale war. What can we do? I think it's also a special thing because research in Ukraine is conducted very much from the Academy of Sciences. So for us in Denmark, it was a natural place when we had displaced scientists coming to Denmark. We had about 100, so it's a small portion. But they came to our academy, even though our academy is very, very small. But this was a natural place to go and look for colleagues. So we set up in our academy a mechanism or a network, and we still work with about 50 scholars in Denmark who are Ukrainians who came because of the war, and they work in different universities. And I want to say, we talk about Ukrainian scientists, but I think we should really see that as an identity label, because some of them, from the 100 that came, some of them are not employed in universities anymore, but for us they're still Ukrainian scientists. And I think one of the tasks we have in the academies is to keep the fire, scientific fire, and say even if your grant has run out, stay in contact with people like you, stay in contact with universities, with colleagues, because there will be such a big need for you people. So I think in Denmark, and what I say to other academies is just open your doors, open your networks. We have paired all our Ukrainian scientists in Denmark with a Danish scientist in our academy, so they have a mentor. And then we have networking meetings and introduce them. We make a survey. We've done it 3 times among them and ask, what do you want to learn? What do you need in your career so that this is not a break, but it could be something that enhances? And what they ask for is, I think, exactly what Frederick was saying, is more like the soft skills. Like, how do I present my CV? How do I write a grant application? How should my presence be on social media? And so we make these training sessions with our Ukrainian colleagues and introduce them to experts like this. So, you know, what can we do? There is so much we can do, and I just think we just need to continue doing and engaging Ukrainian scientists.
Thank you. You know, what I have to say frustrates me is that before the war, there was about 100,000 Ukrainian scientists. And here we are speaking about hundreds or tens. You know, the problem is such a huge, and we have such a limited resources that we all have to concentrate somewhere. After this rather successful program that we gave a chance of very prominent, chosen by US Academy of Sciences, scientists from Ukraine, to do science in Polish institutes and in Ukrainian institutes, we couldn't find money for the next. So we said, what is now? We've been thinking really hard, and we decided we concentrate on one issue, PTSD, post-traumatic stress defect. And it is such a huge problem in Ukraine. There was a comment that it is such a huge problem. And it is also a huge problem in Poland. We are facing with these problems. We have 1 million of people from Ukraine with PTSD, for sure 20%, you know. People who experience such drastic events that they have developed this PTSD. We cannot help them because we have no good specialists. We have very few of them. Actually, we have one institution in Poland who is really competent. So I think we have to focus, but we will not solve the problem. There is such a huge dimension of damages, of human capital loss, of generation gap, of infrastructure, and of stress in Ukrainian nation and also in scientists, for sure. It is not life business as usual. What they do is heroic, that they still want to do science. I visited few institutes. These people are doing science, and they are publishing good papers. It is heroic, I think. You know, some of them are publishing better papers than in our institute's equivalent. Okay, so now I go to another panelist. It is... Speak to microphone. Yes, sorry. It is Irina, and Irina has a very interesting experience. She is now in France. She fights for life in France, but she's a prominent scientist. So she has slightly different perspective. And can you tell us about?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to share my experience with such distinguished audience. And I should say that war in Ukraine for me is a black swan of Nassim Taleb. The war in Ukraine gave me opportunity. I know for somebody here listen to this information is not so good, but to tell the truth, during these years when the war began in Ukraine, I changed lots of countries, and I got a huge development for myself. First of all, I should say that at the beginning of the war, during 5 days, I traveled from Kharkiv to Linköping in Sweden by myself, driving car by myself with experience 2 years before. And it was a very funny joke with my friends when I said 2 years before war, I bought a car and said, I want to travel in Europe by car. It's very funny, I think. And God listened to me. So be careful with your wishes when you ask something. And I traveled to Sweden, to my friend. I didn't know anybody in this city. And I saw that there is a university. Immediately after 1 week, I started to work at the restaurant, lunch restaurant. Imagine, every day, 500 visitors. working at the university in the evening, trying to find any opportunities during the nights and during the day in the restroom. And I saw advertisement from the Linköping University, they need a teacher, and I wrote the professor, and he told me, Irina, you don't know Swedish language, so just only English is not enough for us. But can you give some lectures for us? I gave a couple of lectures, and after 2 weeks, he advised me to apply to ALLEA. I am very grateful to Ali Ahmed, professor of Linköping University, and I'm very grateful for ALLEA, because for me, this grant, not the money. This grant for me, firstly, not like a fish, but to teach how to get this fish. Because the opportunity to work with the colleagues in Sweden gave me a lot of skills, how to communicate. I suppose that I know everything about intercultural communication. No. Intercultural communication, then grant writing, fundraising. It's a special European culture. And I'm grateful for these skills, first of all. During the period of this grant, I got the contract, and I was more happier with this contract because it was a real contract of researcher. I was very scared to sign it. It was my first European contract. Now I'm not afraid. Then the life wasn't so easy because the contract was very limited with a month, and I decided to go to Ukraine because I'm alone, and for me to be alone and to organize all my life is very difficult. I was very, very tired, and I want to go to Ukraine back. But you know everybody here. The salary of professor at the universities in Ukraine now is, you know, under the level of normal life. If you have some diseases, for example, as me, for example, and my salary, 80%, this is pills and different devices that I use in my body, so it's impossible. And I decided to get an extra job in humanitarian organization, People in Need. And I need to follow the words of Frederic. He told today about the experience to work with different donors and experience to write the applications. Because during this period, 2 years, I was in Ukraine and worked with different humanitarian, different donors, USAID, UHF, European Union, and totally different experience. During Dnipro, Kharkiv, through the Dnipro-Kharkiv regions, we supported schools and children. Very, very nice. But the problem, I'm not calm. I wasn't calm in Kharkiv, and for my health wasn't so good, and I couldn't stay anymore there. And I decided to go. So 9 months ago, I left Kharkiv. Now I'm in France, and I have a contract with a company. The new experience for me, there is a company that installed the ventilation system on the shipyard, and I help them with the projects and with different delivering, mostly help to write reports, applications to get the project on this shipyard. And I still connect with my motherland, connect with Kharkiv National University of Radio Electronics, because as a result of my staying in Sweden, the university, I helped to bring 70,000 euro through the project, and also 2 universities now had mutual projects with Sweden. Now the 3rd university will be included, and 8 students had education during 1 semester at Linköping University, and 8 teachers had the short study visit program at Linköping University as well. And I'm very, very proud of these results because I can motivate people to see how it can be and what is better and what shall do maybe better to bring to our country. And when we talk about their support, I think that everybody should bear the responsibility, I mean scientists first of all, because we need to change the mindset to be together with Europe, to be integrated to the European community, and to change this mindset in research as well. Because scientists from Ukraine understand me. To write, for example, article in Ukrainian journal or in European journal, it's totally different. So we need to learn to do that, to be together. The second, the university governance should also change mindset. For example, to write good applications with big projects, you need to have a huge team. Unfortunately, not each university has a good team of accountant or fundraiser or, you know, about that. And of course, support from the government, because motivation is very important for scientists. All of us has families, children that also needs money, because without money, unfortunately, we couldn't ensure the main basis of Maslow.
Of course.
Thanks a lot.
Irina, thank you very much for this very open, very personal, sharing with us very interesting story and showing how different ways you can, you know, benefit I mean, the Ukrainian society. Because here is the specialist who knows how to write grants, how to organize this kind of procedure. It is very, and I think you will be recognized in Ukraine, and you will be contacted with your colleagues, at least in Kharkiv National University, but also in other. Because this is, and it is more and more frequently, these soft skills are now extremely important, and people that are just placed in environment of European era environment will bring these kind of skills to Ukraine. It is something very important. Of course, there are scientists in Ukraine who are outstanding and they know, but they are not too many of them. Okay, I have to look at the watch, but I would like very much some comments from you, from the...
Yeah, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Maria Rastvorova, and I am associate professor at the Krok University in Kyiv, Ukraine, and I also work in the project at the University of Graz. And for 2022, for 2023, I have been ALLEA grantee for 12 months at the University of Graz, and I would like to express my gratitude to ALLEA and these funds, because this ALLEA scholarship has provided me an opportunity to continue my research, to strengthen it, to collaborate with European colleagues, and also to have, and still I have, very supportive and very collaborative working environment at the University of Graz. And I take this opportunity to share this, my comment, right now when we have such a great panel, mostly consisting of women, and a very supportive moderator, man. And as well, you can see that here in this room, there are very many talented female scientists, as well as male ones, of course. And here we have seen very many talented Ukrainian female scientists as well. And I think this is a good opportunity to share my comment that still by now many Ukrainian universities don't have at least existing or somehow appropriate ethical commissions or policies preventing sexual harassment and gender violence. And actually during 2025 and 2026, several universities have shown their cases about long-term sexual harassment about women. And actually, I think this is not a new issue for Ukraine, as well as for many, especially Eastern European countries. But I think this is a very good platform to stress that to help Ukrainian women scientists, both who stay in Ukraine, and as well to help Ukrainian scientists who went abroad and would like also to collaborate with their expertise, with their new knowledge to the post-war recovery of Ukraine, and to support Ukraine and Ukrainian science now as well. These women need institutional support, and these women need institutional support to be protected from existing and possible cases of harassment and gender violence in Ukrainian universities. And I think from this perspective, this meeting is also very valuable as well, because from this perspective, both European Union and both European Union scientific institutions, they can both push Ukrainian academia to have these ethical committees and to have these policies. And I think this will be also very valuable support and encouragement for Ukrainian female scientists to be much more involved in Ukrainian academia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is a very, very important point. And maybe one comment.
Just a short comment and also sharing my personal experience. Then I was employed to the United Nations. Before in my employment, I passed through several tests on sexual harassment. Then I had my full right at MIT. Before getting the access to everything at MIT, even having my email, I went to these sexual harassment tests, in theory, of course. Trainings, and on every door in the toilet there was like advertisement: if you are facing with sexual harassment, please call us, write us, come to us, or something like this. I relate this to kind of, and again, from my two experience, probably it's not a statistics but case, but anyway, I think it is related to the level of internationalizing, sorry for this word, of this corporation community. And I think that the universities in Ukraine, institutions, they also go through this, because honestly, United Nations and Ukrainian universities' level of internationalization is a little bit different. If I can tell you about color of your eyes in Ukraine, it's acceptable, but somewhere it's not acceptable. So, color of your eyes. So yeah, for example, you
nice blue eyes.
If
She's not blue eyes, so I can tell it.
I didn't went through tests at Polish Academy of Science on sexual harassment. So I think that we are on the way for this. And actually, we in Ukraine now already created mechanism of gender specialists at the universities. And again, it's like, it depends from the university to university.
It's very, very important. Thank you very much. Some of the comments? Yes. Paladin, as always.
I would like to say that Paladin, first of all, I have a question, but I would like to say... Oh, sorry. Yes, I am head of the Commission of Anti-Harassment in my university, so we are working on it, definitely. But I would like to come back to the beginning of the session and the question of Professor Dushinsky, if Europe is ready for the war, and what Ukrainians would do if they knew that war will start. It's very important, and I think I can explain my opinion by asking you, which army is more prepared, North Korean or South Korean? You know that North Korean army came to the front line and was in active service together with Russian. And South Korean army have no experience for at least 60 years. So the same is with scientists, the same is with the doctors. So my opinion, Europeans should come to Ukraine, surgeons, they should come to and participate into the operations, for example, in bone reconstruction, because these tasks we have in Ukraine, they are unbelievable, because sometimes face is almost destroyed, and I have seen such examples with my colleagues. Those people who are working with patient blood management, with blood transfusion, what is the question? Very simple. From how high you can throw down the blood and transfuse it safely. It's unbelievable, such question is unbelievable in any civilized country. But in Ukraine, it's very on time, because we have to put the blood to the front line and throw it down so it can be transfused. And many, many examples. And actually, Ukraine can give experience, not in the future when the war will end, but even now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, last question from Thomas Shapiro. Yes.
Well, thank you for the question about what Poles can learn from Ukrainians in case where we will be invaded. And, well, there are lots of such things. One that I'm thinking just now is about a project they have in Ukraine on quality of functioning of universities, of these displaced universities, because there are huge damages, but in fact researchers and students were displaced to different universities. And where I really respect this wise strategical thinking is to prepare understanding what is impact on quality of teaching and research if you have such a huge groups of researchers and students displaced. So I think that this is one of things where we can learn from Ukrainian experiences and prepare ourselves not to repeat the tough lessons that Ukrainians said. I have more such examples, but I think that is an extremely important way of thinking. It's not only money, it's also, we have lots of things to learn, not only in research, but also in organization of research and attitude of researchers.
Yes. Okay, let me say that Professor Shapiro is concentrating from the Conference of Polish Rectors on Ukrainian issues now, yes? Okay, Maria.
I would just say, as a historian, I think that one lesson to learn from history is that those who are superior in technology win wars. And that's why one of the things we can learn from this is to invest in science and invest in technology. This is the only example that we know of that is against it. It's a war in Vietnam where it was the public opinion that turned against, and that made people. So we need to keep the public opinion strong for Ukraine, and we need to invest in science.
Afghanistan.
And public opinion, sorry.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Paweł, maybe you tell us what we should do now.
We should probably close the panel. So thank you very much. We can applaud. It was really inspiring and engaging. So we are about to wrap up, but it's still a few things to be done. So first, technical. I think we promised live streaming to be until now, actually. So we can stop live streaming, and thank you. I'm speaking now to the audience that we have online. Thank you very much for your interest in this meeting, and I think it is not the last one. And we'll.
Can I ask? We have the man with camera. Can you make us a photo?
We will take this. This is in the plan. So we'll have you mean the panel?
No.
We
panel also. But
we will have the photos. We will have it is also planned. So
today.
Yeah, right now. So it is, we are just closing the live streaming, but we are still on and we still have a few things to be done. So that's not over yet. And I would like to ask Frederic to say a few closing remarks, and then I will come after you.
Matthias, there's a beer on the rooftop after this, is correct? Yeah, then I will be very short.